new research is claiming that there's not enough water for the nuclear reactors proposed by old mate over here. Like, not even close. Nuclear reactors need water to make steam, that moves a turbine, that creates electricity. Water is also used to get rid of the excess heat from the core. Simply put, without water, a nuclear power plant could melt down. This is what happened to Fukushima when the electrical systems powering the water pumps failed, meaning the reactor core overheated even after the plant was shut down. The latest research was commissioned by a group called Liberals Against Nuclear. The group had this bloke, Professor Andrew Campbell, who was previously the CEO of Land and Water Australia and the Chief Executive of the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. That's the country's first national land care facilitator. He ran the numbers on how much water is needed to run and cool the nuclear reactors at the 7 proposed sites across Australia at 90% capacity for 80 years, as proposed by the coalition. The TLDR is it doesn't work because there isn't enough water to run the reactors. It could mean that the reactors will have to be reduced or stopped during hot and dry periods, or it could face a meltdown. And farmers could be subjected to water buybacks, with Victorian farmers potentially forced to sell. But let's get into the specifics. What actually is the coalition's plan? They want to use current tech that already exists. So a Westinghouse AP1000 producing 1100 megawatts of power, yes, Westinghouse, the same people that make ovens and fridges and dishwashers. And how much water do they use? Well, around 10,000 Olympic swimming pools worth of water a year. The proposal from the coalition is to have 7 reactors built on the sites of old coal power stations, producing up to 14 gigawatts of electricity. The report has it mapped out in this table, but I've simplified it with this map here. According to the report, the red reactors are places where there are currently water constraints. The orange reactors could face water constraints over the 80-year lifespan of the reactor, and these 2 green reactors have enough water, but this one, Toorong near Brisbane, is currently home to 2 coal plants that generate 1,800 megawatts of power. To match that level of power generation, you would need 2 reactors. The problem is, there is not enough water, so the report has modelled just running 1 reactor. With that in mind, when you go through the 7 proposed sites, the report found that only 1 site actually will have enough water to run at 90% capacity for 80 years. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. Port Augusta is on the ocean and would use seawater. To make all the nuclear reactors in the coalition's plan work nationally, they need 123,000 Olympic swimming pools, or to put it another way, just over 61% of Sydney Harbour. Okay, so overall there is no water, but in theory, if we were to go ahead, where could the water come from? Well, at Little, near Newcastle, and Callide in central Queensland, the report says that water would have to be bought from farmers and other industrial users of water in the Hunter Valley and Callide. At Loy Yang in Victoria, 50% of the water from 2 irrigation districts would need to be secured, with the report stating the way to this would probably involve forcing the farmers to sell. Let's take a closer look at Loy Yang, probably the most concerning of all the proposals. Loy Yang is made up of 5 reactors that would replace 3 coal plants that currently use around 102 gigalitres of water a year. According to Professor Campbell, the 5 reactors would need 125 gigalitres of water, so there is a 25 gigalitre shortfall. Currently, the coal plants at Loy Yang are being fueled by open-cut coal mines nearby. These are all near the end of their lives, which can happen for a number of reasons, whether the mines are physically worn out, economically unviable, or no longer meeting environmental regulations. The Victorian government's plan is to fill them with water and turn them into lakes. Why? Well, one reason is so that they don't catch fire, like this one did back in 2014. To fill all 3, it's going to take 5 Sydney Harbours worth of water, so the plan is to do it over a few decades, with discussions around using desalted seawater and or recycling water. Also, the rivers in the Latrobe Valley have been in decline for the last 20 years, going from 8 to 600 gigalitres a year, so water allocations may go down in the decades to come. There's so much here for just Loy Yang, but what does the report's author reckon?
I suspect that in some cases they hadn't fully understood the ongoing water requirements for the rehabilitation of the coal assets.
And what happens if you didn't have enough water for a nuclear reactor? Well, you either need to run it at lower efficiency or it overheats and melts down. I could do another 5 videos from just this report, but I'll end it on one final point. The federal government doesn't even have control over the water in these places. State governments have control over water allocations, the same way that they're in charge of hospitals and transport. So for this whole thing to work, there would have to be either a new deal between the Commonwealth and the states, of which 4 are currently Labor governments, so they'd be less inclined to help a Liberal federal government plan. And in Queensland, where there are 2 nuclear reactors proposed, it currently has a nuclear ban in place. And David Crisafulli has made it very clear that he doesn't want to repeal that legislation.